The containment facility on Station Kethra 9 wasn't designed for humans. Its architects, the insectoid Vryn, had built it for species that valued efficiency over comfort, function over feeling. So when Ellen first arrived as the station's xenobiology consultant, she'd brought exactly 3 personal items: a data slate, a worn photograph, and her pillow from Earth. That pillow, soft, slightly lumpy, covered in faded blue fabric, had traveled across 17 light years. It smelled like home, like the lavender fields near her childhood house. Like everything the cold recycled air of the station could never replicate. The Vryn hadn't understood. Unnecessary mass, they chittered, their mandibles clicking disapprovingly. But Ellen had paid the extra freight cost without hesitation. Some things weren't negotiable. Her assignment was simple enough: study the recently rescued Karvesh cubs, a pack of 6 juvenile predators whose transport ship had been destroyed by pirates. The Karvesh were apex hunters from a death world, all sleek obsidian fur, retractable claws, and eyes that glowed amber in low light. Adult Karvesh were legendary mercenaries, bounty hunters, warriors who'd never lost their killing edge despite millennia of civilization. The cubs, though orphaned and traumatized, were still dangerous. They'd already sent 2 Vryn handlers to the medical bay. Ellen had approached the observation chamber that first day with her usual calm. The cubs, each about the size of a large dog, though far more lethal, had watched her through the transparent barrier with predatory stillness. Their eyes tracked every movement, calculating, measuring. She'd sat down cross-legged just outside their enclosure, data slate in lap, and simply observed. Not studying. Just watching. Being present. Hours passed. The cubs remained motionless. Then she'd yawned. It was such a human thing, that yawn jaw stretched wide, a little squeak at the end, unself-conscious and vulnerable. The smallest cub, the one whose file listed him as Ruvo, had tilted his head. His ears, previously flattened against his skull, had perked up slightly. Ellen had smiled and returned to her notes. The breakthrough came 3 days later, entirely by accident. She'd been working a double shift, exhaustion settling into her bones like lead. The observation post had a small rest alcove, and she'd retreated there, pillow clutched under one arm. She'd meant to nap for 20 minutes. She'd woken 2 hours later to find Ruvo pressed against the barrier, one paw extended as far through the energy field as physics would allow, reaching toward where she slept. His eyes were fixed not on her but on the pillow. Understanding had dawned slowly. The Karvesh were pack hunters. They nested together, sought comfort in physical closeness. These cubs had lost their family, their whole world. They'd been poked, prodded, studied by beings who saw them as specimens, not as frightened children. And here was Ellen, sleeping vulnerable and unguarded, with an object that clearly represented safety to her. She'd sat up, considered the situation for exactly 12 seconds, then made a decision that would have horrified the station's safety protocols. She deactivated the barrier. The cubs had frozen. Then Ruvo, brave despite his size, had padded forward. He'd approached the pillow with the same intensity adult Karvesh brought to tracking prey. He'd sniffed it once, twice. His eyes had widened. Then he'd circled it 3 times and curled up directly on top of it, his rumbling purr echoing through the chamber. The transformation had been immediate. The other 5 cubs had crowded close. Not on the pillow Ruvo had claimed it, but near it, near him, finally relaxed for the first time since rescue. Ellen had watched, throat tight with unexpected emotion, as 6 orphaned predators found comfort in a piece of fabric that smelled like lavender and home. That was 4 months ago. Now, sitting in her expanded observation post now, more of a shared living space, Ellen watched the evening rotation with barely suppressed amusement. The cubs had grown. They were each nearly 50 kilograms of muscle and instinct, adolescent now, practicing their hunting pounces on the station's maintenance drones and terrorizing the Vryn with their boundless energy. But the pillow rotation remained sacred. Ruvo, as first discoverer, had established himself as keeper of the schedule. He'd somehow convinced the others to accept a strict rotation. Each cub got exactly 8 hours with the pillow before passing it to the next in line. No exceptions. No arguments. Well, almost no arguments. Ruvo, it's Shara's turn, Ellen said without looking up from her report. She didn't need to look. She'd learned to read the particular growl that meant someone was trying to steal extra pillow time, a huff of protest. Then the soft sound of claws on metal as Ruvo reluctantly vacated the pillow. Shara, second largest of the pack, immediately claimed her spot, kneading the fabric with her paws before settling down with a satisfied rumble. Ruvo padded over to Ellen instead, resting his massive head on her knee. She absently scratched behind his ears, and he leaned into the touch with shameless pleasure. You created this system, she reminded him. Can't complain when it works against you. His amber eyes looked up at her with what she learned to recognize as Karvesh amusement. The Vryn station commander had been scandalized when she'd filed her report. You've allowed predators to form an emotional attachment to a personal item? You've disrupted their natural behavioral patterns? I've given traumatized children a coping mechanism, Ellen had replied coolly. The pillow represents security. The rotation teaches them patience, respect for others, and communal living. Skills they'll need when they reintegrate with Karvesh society. What she hadn't added, what the data could never capture, was the deeper truth. The cubs hadn't just found comfort in the pillow. They'd found it in what the pillow represented. A human who slept undefended in their presence, who trusted them despite their claws and fangs, who'd seen frightened children instead of dangerous predators. Now, as Ellen watched Shara's breathing slow into sleep, the other cubs arranged around her in a protective semicircle, she felt that familiar warmth in her chest. The pillow would probably never make it back to Earth. It was too important here, serving a purpose she'd never imagined. Tomorrow, the cubs would begin training with the Karvesh ambassador who'd arrived to take them home. They'd learn to hunt properly, to fight, to become the warriors their species expected. But tonight, and every night until they left, they'd rotate sleeping on a lumpy blue pillow that smelled like lavender and humanity, following their sacred ritual with the solemnity of monks. And Ruvo, keeper of the schedule, would ensure no one ever broke the rules. Some traditions, Ellen had learned, were universal. Even across the stars, even among apex predators, the need for comfort and home remained the same. Her pillow had found a new purpose. And she'd found a pack of her own.